Action.
Hello, Youth Advisory Board. I received your questions, and I can't imagine that you just wanted to look at me answering them and talking and blabbing at you. So we're going to make this a little more interesting. We have the lovely Kristen Vaganos from, thank you, from, you may recognize her from General Hospital or from other feature films. And she's going to ask the questions to make it a little more exciting for you. And we're going to rifle through them and speed through them because otherwise it's just too much talking. So,
all right, rapid fire.
Yes, and I haven't, I quickly looked at them for like a second, but I really have not prepared any answers. So it's all off the cuff.
Great. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Scott.
Yeah.
On the topic of personal motivation and values,
Yes.
what drives you to do volunteer work?
Oh, my parents did a lot of volunteer work, and so it was always a thing we did. Churches, or there was a Franciscan friary, or political campaigns, or always something. So it was just something that was. It reminds me of my childhood, so it makes me feel good.
That's very sweet. And how do you find the motivation to work even harder the next day?
Sometimes I don't have the motivation to work harder the next day. Sometimes the next day you just don't have the motivation. But then it comes back to you. If it's part of you, it comes back to you.
If you could do one thing over again, what would it be?
That probably means in relation to work, right? Like, because otherwise I would want to go have a maritozzi, which is a cream puff pastry, and I'd want to do that over again because I'm in Italy right now answering these questions. But I think if I could do it over again, there are mistakes you learn along the way, or just, I think one of the biggest things I learned is not to create a sense of dependency on the grantees that we give money to, so they don't think that because they got money once that there's going to be money coming again, and then they sort of start relying on you, and maybe we don't have the money to give them, and then it puts them in a very difficult situation. So it's to have more open and honest conversations from the beginning about the future, just so that nobody has any possible misunderstandings about what happens next. So just better communications, probably.
Lovely. Okay, it says, I read part of your story and I saw that you uprooted the pathway of your life entirely on 2 separate occasions. What did you rely on to make that decision, and how did you know it was all going to work out?
Yeah, that's a good question, you. I just relied on my gut, I guess, and just sort of, why not? Like, it was just seemed like the right thing to do, and it was something you want to try, you should try it, and not be, it's a little bit scary, so to try to get over that fear was a big thing, and I think you just sort of have to have faith that it's going to work out, and if it doesn't, what's the worst what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be all right in the end.
Right.
It might not be where you thought you were going to be, but yeah, I did uproot my life a few times. I think I don't know, I think I like doing that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I have follow-up questions later. But next is on the topic of Go Campaign. What inspired you to start Go Campaign?
I went and volunteered at a orphanage in Africa in 2005, December 2005, and it was for 30 days, and it was the best month of my life. Unbelievable. I would love to say that the best month of my life is still ahead of me, but really, nothing's going to match that month. It was the most incredible experience, and I wanted to start the charity just to help those 20 kids, and so that's what motivated me to start. But then when I came back, I did raise money for those kids who I still parent and keep in touch with today. But people started coming to me and saying, oh, I love what you did with the kids there in Tanzania. Could you help me? I know this monk in Cambodia who's educating girls, and if I gave you the money to get through there, like, I don't really know how to make sure the money's spent properly. Could you help me with that? And I'll raise the money for you. I'm like, well, okay. And then I met someone in a valet parking line who's like, you got to meet this woman in Peru who's helping indigenous children, and I'm sure there's people who help raise money for that. I'm like, well, okay. And so slowly over time, this local hero model was built, and Go Campaign has progressed. And now instead of those 20 kids, we've helped 450,000 kids or something like that.
So amazing. Why did you decide on a more sustainable organization than taking the more common donation route?
I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I think that means like, why did I start a charity instead of just taking the money and giving it over to the organization? So I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I made sure that like Go Campaign, there was a reason for it to exist, and there was obviously a need for it because people kept bringing me these projects and wanting to give me money to help other kids around the world. So I think it was because our model was a little bit different in that we listened to not only the grantees, the donors, like what do you need? We don't go in and say, hey, here's a library or here's clean water. We never tell them. We listen to them and say, what do you need? What are your thoughts? You know this area, you know your kids in your region better than we do. So you tell us. And then on the other side, donors, where we let donors say, hey, do you care about girls projects? We'll give to girls. Or you want to give to projects in the USA? So that it seemed like there was a need for that kind of organization, and that's why I decided to continue the charity.
It's like a bunch of organizations all in one.
Yeah, but based on listening on both ends, listening to the person who's giving the money and listening to the person who's receiving the money.
Okay, on that note, can you explain the concept of local heroes and how they contribute to Go Campaign's mission?
Yes, so that's our model. Like that was the common thread. So we help babies up to 25-year-olds, and we do it all around the world, but it has to be run by a local hero. So if you started a fantastic project in Kenya or Thailand, I would say, wow, Kristen, that's really great. I'm sure it's wonderful, but we can't help you because you're not a local person from that community. And so we wouldn't, it's just not in our mission. Unless maybe you moved to Kenya or Thailand and had been there for a dozen years and you really were part of the community by then, and then you had buy-in from the people. So the local hero model is really the biggest pillar of our work because we believe in investing in the ideas of local people because they know better than we do what their own children need. So that's a really important point for us.
Okay. How does Go Campaign identify and support local heroes, and what kind of resources do you provide to them? Yeah,
so we raise money, obviously, for them and give them donations, but it's a lot more than that. They're really part of the family, like our programming department or myself. We're on the phone or on WhatsApp or on Zoom with local heroes all the time, and we don't just give them a check and walk away. We talk to them about their needs. Even before we give them the money, we're like, well, why are you doing this? And have you considered this? Or hey, we know somebody who's doing similar work in another country or around the corner from you. Why don't you guys meet each other and talk and then come back to us and see if that's still, you think that's the best thing. And so, and what other areas of support do you need? Like maybe they need help with accounting or with a website. So we're trying to think about their future, like how are they going to continue on and grow beyond our grant? What are they going to do next year after our grant is done, or are we going to work with them for a few years? So they're really part of the family, and we find them by referrals. We find them by other nonprofits sometimes call us and say, hey, we think you should work with this great organization. Sometimes we read about them in the newspaper or in the news on TV. Or sometimes our donors our board members will be traveling around the world and say, oh, I found this fantastic project. I think you should investigate and get to know them. So they come to us in many different ways.
How does Go Campaign measure its effectiveness, and what steps do you take to ensure accountability and transparency?
So we have a reporting process where the grantees have to report back to us during and after the time of the grant. And we measure the number of children impacted and the work that was done. We obviously have, as I said, we're in close contact with them, so we have one-on-one conversations about the efficacy of the project and how it worked. We get photos and videos and sometimes site visits, but not always necessary. And so we do look at the numbers afterwards and see what went wrong, what went right. Was it better than expected? Was it a little off course? Sometimes projects have had to stop entirely because of drought or a war or who knows what, and then they'll resume later. So because we work so closely with them, it's easy for us to monitor the impact, and then that shapes what we'll give to next time and how we do our next grant making, because we're like, wow, that worked really well over there in Tanzania. This project in South Africa, this organization's asking for money, it's very similar, and why don't we fund that too, but we'll introduce them to the one in Tanzania so they can learn from them. And so we're constantly learning and trying to be better at our job too.
Do they vary in duration?
Yes, some can be done in a minute, and some it takes a few years to complete.
I interrupted with my own question. Apologies. Has there ever been a moment where you were forced to acknowledge a weakness in the setup of the Go campaign?
I'm sure. Well, I alluded to it before, about the dependency. So before we had that, well, two things. One is before we had the local hero model, as we were developing that, sometimes we were, some people were maybe not from the community, like, they'd come in and just maybe been there for a couple of years, or maybe, so they weren't really true local heroes. So that sort of became clear in our early years. And then also the dependency thing, like of not being able to, or not thinking ahead to be like, oh, didn't even dawn on us that they might think they're going to get this support for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't have even thought they would have thought that, but of course it might be made perfect sense from their side. So, so those kinds of issues that have to do with culture and communication, you learn from those mistakes.
Are you satisfied with the progress Go Campaign has made as an institution?
Not at all, not at all. No, there's so many kids out there who we have to say no all the time, and it is terrible. And sometimes we don't even look at an application, or we can't even think about it. And we want to think about it, we would love to, but we just don't have the funds and the resources. So no, we are too small. I would love to we get about $2 million a year. And we could easily deploy $5 million a year and help so many more kids and save so many more lives. So when you know that feels like you're failing all the time in a way. So that part is not fun, exactly. Yeah.
What is your favorite memory of helping a child/children throughout your time with Go? Pick it up here.
That's a good question. Oh gosh, I don't know. There's a lot. When I travel the world, I get to see a lot of the kids. But it's the small little things. Like sometimes we've like there's little side projects that tend to creep out of our projects. It's not really what we do. It's not our model, so we don't talk about it too much. But like there's a young man now who's from an orphanage in Kenya that I met many years ago, and because some of our donors, we encourage our donors to go visit our projects anywhere around the world, and so donors visited this orphanage and took a liking to those kids. And so there's a kid now who's about to graduate medical school in Eastern Europe, because it was easier and cheaper to go to medical school there. So he's about to become a doctor, and so I took him out to a restaurant in Nairobi one time. He's from Kenya. And I realized during the meal it was his first time in a restaurant, and so just like these little these moments of and he's going to become, he's an amazing kid. He's going to become an amazing doctor. So he'll send me a photo in his, his doctor coat and lab coat and whatever. And those little things are really special. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Can you share a personal experience or story that drives your commitment to this cause?
Yeah, stories like that. I'll also mention Leonce, who's one of the first. When I said I spent that month in Africa, there were 20 kids at that orphanage who I still keep in touch with and parent. But one is Leonce, and he just graduated from college in the U.S. and now he's going out into the world. And looking for a job, and he got a degree in Chinese and economics, and he was, when I think back to when I met him, there's no way he could have imagined this life that he has. So it's quite remarkable. So stories like that.
Special.
Yeah.
What is the most impactful project you have completed or helped ever since you started the Go campaign?
Well, I think I probably don't know the answer to that because I'll never know how impactful it was exactly to the people on the ground who are receiving the help. Like, in my mind, I would say the Gabriela Center, which is a center in Tanzania for special needs, intellectually disabled kids with autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, ADD even, and they save kids' lives there every day, and that's a center that we built. Really, our funding helped it grow enormously. We built a whole new campus, and it looks amazing there. I encourage any of you to go visit. It's near Mount Kilimanjaro, and that's a really incredible place. And when people go, they're so impressed. And the work of our local hero there, Brenda, she's really amazing. And so that's sort of, in my mind, the most incredible thing we're doing, because nobody else is doing the work that she's doing in around East Africa or many parts of Africa. And I know that kids are actually, their lives are being saved every day. But then if you talk to like our person in Hanoi, we gave them one laptop, and somehow they turned that laptop into a whole school for like for young people with disabilities, and now it's a job training center, and many people have become employed through the they're getting jobs on the internet, like travel, becoming travel agents and such, and because they just needed a laptop to get started. So like we gave them a very small grant, and now there's like a big booming project over there. So they would probably say, well, no, nothing's more impactful than that. Like so, and I'm sure that's true for all around the world. So, which is the beauty of Go Campaign. Like we don't even have to know all the amazing stories that are happening, but I'm sure that there have happened and continue to happen.
Very cool. Can you share some success stories or metrics that demonstrate the impact of Go Campaign's work?
Well, yeah, I think I just did that.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're on to category 4 of 5.
Okay.
This is future and strategy.
Oh.
What are Go Campaign's strategic goals for the next 3 to 5 years, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Well, it was mentioned earlier, I want to grow the organization to be about a $5 million a year organization. So we're looking into PR and advertising, and how do we get our message out, because right now it's too insulated, and we're well known in a small community, but we're not really known super well around the country or around the globe, and so we're going to try to figure out a way to break out of that. And, yeah, it is.
All right. Are there any new initiatives, partnerships, or geographic regions that Go Campaign is exploring?
We're always looking at new initiatives. Right now we're accepting applications for grants. We're going to be giving out some grants in June, and so my programming team is currently Zooming with people from all over the world, and we don't have a specific focus. It's wherever the need is, so we don't say, oh, let's do more work here or there. But so yeah, there are new applications coming in right now about some new projects that we haven't worked with before, so it'll be interesting. I'm always excited to see when those come in and see what might be ahead.
Okay. How do you see Go Campaign evolving to address the changing needs of vulnerable people and the communities they serve?
Well, we're pretty adept at changing. Like during the pandemic, we really had to shift completely. Because we don't do food programs or like school fees or anything that is a recurring need, because again, we don't want to create dependency. Yeah. So, but during the pandemic, people needed food, and kids needed to work school, and so we just completely threw our regulations and rules out the window and be like, how do we help save these kids? So we're always open to the ways the world are changing, and the way the world is changing quite a bit right now, especially in the international development, and with what's going on with the defunding of USAID. Like, I don't really even know what's ahead for our partners around the world. So I think we're going to have to continue to be as flexible as possible so that we can adapt. Because the goal is to help kids and to give them opportunities and to see them thrive. So whatever that takes. So we'll see.
What do you hope your legacy will be, and how do you want Go Campaign to be remembered?
What do I hope my legacy will be?
Yes.
That's the question. Oh, I don't really care about that. But Go Campaign, I would like to live on beyond me and just go and be a thing that, because I think it does a good job, and I think that it's a little different from other organizations, and I know it's saving lives and helping a lot of kids. So if that just continued on without me, that would be a good thing.
What goals do you have for the Youth Advisory Board?
Goals? Well, I hope you guys learn a lot. I hope you get interested in this field because you can really make a difference in people's lives, and it doesn't take a lot to make a difference. And so I'm really excited that you were all inspired to join, and so thank you for joining. And I hope it's a benefit to you and your futures, because you guys are in charge of the planet from now on. So it's up to you, and you got a lot of work to do. We did not turn over a very good condition for you, and I'm so sorry about that. But so I just I hope that this inspires you to make the world a better place, because you can do it.
Okay, we have 2 questions left on
Okay.
advice and entrepreneurship. What advice would you give to others who are passionate about creating positive social change?
I would say just do it. Just do it. Don't be scared. Don't overthink it. Because I never thought about, like I said, I just started Go Campaign to help 20 kids. If you told me at that time, Scott, do you want to start an international charity that's going to be working in 40 countries? I'd be like, yeah, no, that's not really my thing. No.
That sounds big.
Yeah, not interested in that. So if I had known all that, I don't think I would have done it. But I was just acting from my heart and wanting to help and so I just, jumped in, and then things just organically snowballed and made sense. And so that would be my advice: is don't be scared, and to just, if you see something that you feel passionate about, that you think you can make a difference, then find some other people who are like-minded who can help you. Also, look for people who are already doing it, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like if somebody's already doing it, just join forces with them. But maybe you have a new idea that nobody's doing it in quite the same way that you're thinking about. And so you just have to jump in and do it, and others will follow.
Okay, so on the maybe you have your own idea, once you're already involved, the next question is, what advice would you give to someone trying to start their own organization or nonprofit?
Yeah, so just first do your research and see if there's other organizations already doing what you do, and figure out why you wouldn't join with them. And then if you still have a good reason for doing it yourself, then talk to some folks like me. You can talk to me, who have started nonprofits, and just give you some advice on how to get started. And then just start talking about it to everybody, and bounce ideas off people, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, and just get in there and do it. It's a good thing. It's rewarding. It's fun, and I encourage you to keep at it.
That's all.
That's it.
Good job.
All right. Good job, you. Thank you for your
This was
assistance.
lovely. Hey, anytime. I
And
learned a lot. I'm inspired.
Thanks. And thanks, Youth Advisory Board. Hope this was interesting to you. And thanks again for being part of Go Campaign. We really appreciate it.